I never did quite finish Moby Dick from high school. My ratings can be a little chaotic. Well, I can get you over there, but I'm not sure I'll be able to bring you back. Hi, I'm Sock Marionette, doing business as bargain counter argument. I'm a middle-aged lady in a tiara talking about books, and today's video is about my February book clubs, buddy reads, and read-alongs. So I read a fair number of books in those circumstances, and I'm here to talk about them. First up, Tea and Biscuits Historical Romance Book Club, which is sponsored by or conducted by, hosted by B of Mama Needs to Read Romance and Tara of Tara Talks Books. Link in the description. Anybody I mention who has a channel, I will link them in the description. And this was a book we all read, and it is The Finest Print by Erin Langston. It is set in, I believe, 1844, so Victorian era, and she is the eccentric daughter from an eccentric and supportive family. She wants to write kind of gruesome murder mysteries. She's inspired by Murders of the Rue Morgue and so on, and but she can't get any takers for publishing them. He's an American, and he uses the last of his money to get from Boston to London because he inherited his uncle's print shop, and he gets there and finds out that the print shop was in debt. And so instead of being able to start a newspaper, he finds out that he needs to pay off this debt, and that newspapers in England have a tax on them, which makes them too expensive to sell the kind of working man's newspaper that he wants to sell. So I wonder if these two, when they meet in a park, can work something out where he maybe publishes her gruesome stories is as like little pamphlets, newspapers, because there's no tax on fiction, and they sell them, and he can gain the capital he needs to get the print shop out of debt. It was delightful. I really had a good time with this. So much fun. 4 stars. Speaking of B of Mama Needs to Read Romance, her members only book club, we are not reading a specific book each month. Instead, we have prompts. Different people submitted prompts, and the prompt for February was from Jenny. She said, read a book that's been on your TBR the longest. Well, I'm not really sure because I never did quite finish Moby Dick from high school, so that's something I want to do at some point. So I don't know if that counts, but instead I grabbed this book. It had been my mother's, I think. I'm not sure. It's from 2020. It's Gravity is the Thing by Jacqueline Moriarty. It is about a woman who has been getting these sort of chapters from a self-help book ever since she was a teenager, and the self-help book chapters are like, this is how you learn to fly. And around the same time she started getting these, her brother disappeared, and so she continued to get these, and then she gets an invitation to go to a seminar and learn how to fly, and she's like, okay, this is like a weird cult thing. It's like they're going to ask for money, but she goes anyway because she's curious, and she ends up meeting people, and just it's really good. I ended up enjoying this. At first the prose was a little kind of hard to get used to. I think this would be an excellent pick for a book club where everybody is reading the same book. I think it would probably be a fun one to discuss in those circumstances. So yeah, I think I ended up giving it 3.5 or 4 stars. I think I rounded up to 4. Sometimes from 3.5 I round down to 3. That time I rounded up to 4. Then Kat of Kat's Novel Adventures had Folklore February, where she was just encouraging people to read books that were related to folklore in some way. You could read middle grade, you could read nonfiction about folklore, that kind of thing. I was going to go in an urban legends direction, but I ended up instead reading The Bloody Chamber and Other Stories by Angela Carter. These are fairy tale retellings, and the prose is just beautiful and lush and evocative. I really, really enjoyed it a lot. So 5 stars, I guess. I don't know. My ratings can be a little chaotic. Don't always feel comfortable giving star ratings. And then we have Anne of Green Gables. I'm participating in an Anne of Green Gables read-along, and this is an omnibus volume which includes the first book, Anne of Green Gables, and Anne of Avonlea, which I believe is the second book, and Anne's House of Dreams, which is the 6th book, and that's the one we read in February. And I really liked it. The first book, I joined the read-along already in progress with Anne of the Island. And I ended up not reading that book at all because I read it under kind of difficult circumstances. I was reading an e-copy that was part of an omnibus that included like 9 books from by Lucy Maud Montgomery. So it was impossible for me to know where the book began and ended because it didn't really have page numbers. It was a big pain. And the other thing is that I hadn't read any of her books before, or any of the Anne of Green Gables books or anything by Lucy Maud Montgomery. And I was looking for a plot, and there wasn't one. And there's not supposed to be one, but I didn't know that. And I was also reading it under a deadline, and I think these books are something that are much better enjoyed contemplatively when you don't have a deadline breathing down your neck. So I ended up not rating that one because I was like, the circumstances surrounding my reading of it made me not enjoy it. And that's not anything to do with the book. That had to do with my own context as a reader. I really liked Anne's House of Dreams because I didn't like Anne of Windy Poplar. I didn't really like that one. That was a DNF. I will probably come back to it later again when I can read it as a book rather than this giant PDF file where you have no idea where anything begins or ends. But this one, I wised up and got this from the library as a book. And Anne's House of Dreams is when she gets married and has her first house that she and her husband set up as their own establishment, as their own household. I really, really liked it a lot. And I think it had to do with my choosing to read it as a book rather than as an ebook. And also knowing that I was going into it not expecting there to be a huge amount of plot, although there actually was more plot than in the other book I read from this series. So I really liked it. I think I ended up giving it 4.5 stars, something like that. 4.5 sounds about right. So let's see if there was anything else that was like a book club situation. No, but I did have a read along with B, Nicole, and Abby Jean. B, again, Mama Needs to Read Romance. And we read Yours Until Dawn by Teresa Medeiros because this is a favorite of Nicole's. B had already read it. She wanted to reread it. Nicole apparently always wants to reread this at least like once every year or two because it's a favorite. It's a Beauty and the Beast retelling. And that's like Nicole just loves Beauty and the Beast retellings. And I've read one with her before. I can't remember what it's called, but it was by Hannah Howell. I did that as buddy read with her and Anna. Really enjoyed it. I am coming around to the Beauty and the Beast trope. And actually, there was a Beauty and the Beast story in here. Plot twist, she becomes a beast as well. And it's like a shape-shifting thing. It's very cool. Anyway, so I read this. I really liked it. Really enjoyed it as a buddy read, too. Because Abby Jean and I hadn't read it. And so we're like swapping theories and ideas in this chat. And I think both Nicole and B were like, we can't say anything. We can't say anything. But I really liked it. I think I ended up giving it 5 stars. And look, it's a step back. Not my favorite step back, but they made the effort at least. And let me see. I think the other buddy read I had in February was Meet Cute, which is an anthology of short stories, YA short stories in which people meet cute. I was reading this along with Sarah of Reading Category Romance and Kristen of the Never Ending TBR in Kristen's Corner. And this is like one of those books where it's set up like an advent calendar, but it was for the first 2 weeks in February, which I did a video a day. I'll link that playlist in the description. And so we had a short story every day, and you kind of like broke the seal and everything. Really enjoyed it as a reading experience. None of all of the stories were a hit for me, but as a reading experience, I really liked it much better than I liked A Heart for Christmas, which was an Advent novel by Sophie Germain. And I didn't exactly buddy read this, but I was reading it at the same time Stormy of Storm Reads was reading a copy of it. And so I was watching her videos where she talked about it every day. And she had pretty much the same opinion of it that I did. I didn't care for it. I didn't really like the format for a novel. I don't think it worked as well as it did with short stories. So, and the novel itself was very weak. Much preferred this. A little bit of edit because I inadvertently left one of the books across the room. We actually finished this in March, but we started it in February, and I had such a good time with it that Abby Jean and I decided to read another historical together, and that is A Rose Rules for Seduction by Ava Lee. And we are finishing it today. I only have about 30 pages left. Another 5-star. Really enjoyed this book. I've read Ava Lee before. Is it Eva or Ava? I don't know. I haven't read a whole lot by her. I read My Fake Rake and really liked it. Really enjoyed this. Fortunately, I have my own copies of a lot of her books, most of her books, so I can just keep on going. So this is a really good one. He's from the lower class, but his father made a lot of money. She is from a more aristocratic background. Because this takes place in, I believe, 1820 or thereabouts. So yeah, it takes place just as George III has died and the former Prince Regent has become king. And so 1820, I think that was. And it's, you have this tension between people who are, because this is as a merchant class is starting to accrue more money, and one can become very, very wealthy through that without being an aristocrat. And also, so they were set to marry. But he left her practically at the altar. He didn't like literally leave her at the altar, but he ran away from her like a few days before they were supposed to marry. And now they're at a house party. I think it's supposed to be like a house party that lasts at least a week on an island off the coast of Scotland, off of Oban, which I went to Oban when I was a little girl. We went to Oban and we were trying to get over to the Isle of Mull or the Isle of Iona. And the weather was so poor that the ferry was, the guy who ran the ferry was like, well, I can get you over there, but I'm not sure I'll be able to bring you back. And we had places to be, so we couldn't go. But it was kind of fun to see that they still had issues with ferry service in 1979 as they did in 1820. I'm really enjoying this book as it's kind of about the difference between courting someone and actually getting to know someone. And that was the problem they had before, was that they were courting according to all the rules, the aristocratic rules of courtship, and it wasn't leading to any kind of real emotional intimacy or knowledge of the other person. That wasn't the only problem they had, but it was what they need to overcome in this book. I don't always like a second chance romance, but I did like this one. So I say that like I finished it. Like I said, I still have 30 pages to go, but she'd have to really, really drop the ball in those last 30 pages for me to find this anything other than a 5 or even higher. I really liked this book. I do like this book a little bit better, but for different reasons. So I think, yeah. So I guess this was a 5, so this is like a 5.25, 5.5, if such a thing exists. And my other March read-along, almost halfway through, is Soul Searching by Lila Sage, which I am buddy reading with Aina of Aina's Nook. She changed her channel name lately. I got the right one. It'll be linked in the description. I am enjoying it. Our female main character has her unlikable moments, which she hasn't crossed the line so far, but she's kind of skated up to it, but I think it just makes it more realistic in a way. So it's kind of nice that Lila Sage is not shying too far away from making her characters don't have to be saints. And there is sibling conflict. She and her twin sister have some issues they need to work through. And so, but yeah, I'm really enjoying this one. And then I haven't started this because this is the Tea and Biscuits Historical Romance Book Club for March. It is Hardly a Gentleman, Hardly a Shirt. I made that joke in my library haul, which I've already posted. Link in the description. By Eloisa James. And I'm going to read this later in the month because we usually have our discussions toward the end of the month, and I like to be relatively fresh. I usually only read them like 2 or 3 days before discussion time. So those are the buddy reads that I completed for February and that I've scheduled for March. There's also middle grade March, and I have some middle grades I'm going to read for that. And I'm sure other buddy reading opportunities will come up, and I will welcome them. So yeah, so I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, comment, share, subscribe, or don't. I'm not the boss of you. And I hope you have a good day or night.